which is what a sociologist of knowledge would likely say. Human experience is our reality, meaning the thing as it is for me. Oh, and you begin to see a phenomenalism in the pragmatism, you see, a phenomenalism in pragmatism. I had a graduate professor who said one day, to the surprise of many people in the class, that to his mind, pragmatism and positivism amounted to the same thing. There's no difference between them. They're both equally bad. That was his introduction to a course on another alternative. You see, in the days when pragmatism and positivism were the big things. But human experience is our reality. Yeah, that's my other comment is that's the Hegelian tradition. Because what Hegel was trying to do, you see, was to look through the lens of self-consciousness, of human experience, and finding the dialectic unfolding in human experience of anything, projecting that onto the whole of reality. Yes. So very much in the Hegelian tradition. In Dewey, you'll find that especially, inasmuch as Dewey's early years, he was part of the American neo-Hegelian tradition. His first publications were articles in a journal called The Monist. Interesting title, The Monist, which in those days was the journal of the Hegelians. Hegel, the absolute monist. You see. Well, the Monist went out of circulation for a long time. When it came back in, it was simply a journal interested in metaphysical topics. But in Dewey's day, it was the Hegelian journal. Really, what you have in Dewey is another Hegelian converting Hegel to a naturalistic basis. Now, Whitehead was converting Hegel's disciple Bradley to a naturalistic basis. Dewey is converting the old man to a naturalistic basis. You see. Or perhaps he was converting the American disciple Josiah Royce. But it's this Hegelian tradition again. Okay, so that's the first characteristic, the primacy of the practical over the theoretical, the primacy of concrete experience. The second characteristic is the emphasis on organic relationships. Organic relationships. And again, that should ring a Whiteheadian bell. The organic relationship. Yeah, the interconnectedness. So that to varying degrees, the pragmatists are all critical of the atomistic view of experience represented by John Locke's simple ideas. Ideas which come without any intrinsic relationships to anything else. The relationships are purely external, in the sense that the laws of association impose relationships on them. Well, that sort of thing is taboo. James speaks of the stream of consciousness. Yeah, a stream of consciousness, an interrelated thing. Organic relationships within the whole stream of consciousness. And Dewey speaks of present experience as looking forward to, as referring to future experience. And you see that in his notion of an idea. Because an idea for Dewey is an idea about what we do in the future. And where do you get your ideas? From past experience. That is to say, into the future. They're all interrelated. You see. So that organic interrelatedness then is fundamental. And it's for that reason that they refuse any dualisms of mind and body. There's an interrelatedness of the physical and the mental. They refuse any dualism of fact and value, separation of fact and value. Values emerge in the context of experience and in relationship to future experience. So the interconnectedness of things. And then the third characteristic, philosophical naturalism. Philosophical naturalism. Naturalism is used, the term naturalism is used in two senses. One, methodological naturalism, and the second, metaphysical. Methodological naturalism is, of course, referring to the methodology of the natural sciences. So the methodological naturalist universalizes the use of scientific method. Scientific method is applied to every kind of inquiry. And you'll find that's one of the dominant themes in Dewey's book, The Reconstruction of Philosophy. The reconstruction he wants is a reconstruction by means of the universal application of scientific method. If you like, experimental thinking. He has a book called Essays in Experimental Logic. The universalization. And I think that it's fair to say that's the case with William James as well. We'll see that in regards to James, his famous pragmatic view of truth is really the view that you want experimental confirmation of a hypothesis. That's the way to test for the truth of a belief. And Charles Sanders Peirce, we'll see, says the scientific method is the way to fix a belief amidst the ebb and flow of ideas that are unstable. Scientific method. So methodological naturalism, pretty clearly. Metaphysical naturalism, methodological naturalism in all of them. Metaphysical naturalism, I think, very explicitly in Dewey. Not in James. James is a theist of sorts. Oh, it's a finite God that James seems to have, God limited in power. But he's a theist of sorts. But Dewey is very explicitly a metaphysical naturalist. All that there is natural processes. Natural processes that are amenable to evolutionary explanation. And so you'll find that in Reconstruction in Philosophy, he not only wants to universalize the application of scientific method, he wants to universalize evolutionary explanation and treat the history of philosophy as itself an evolutionary process. Theory of natural selection, which eliminates any fixed forms, fixity of species and such like, so forth. So these three characteristics, the primacy of the practical, the organic interrelatedness of everything, and methodological naturalism, metaphysical in Dewey's case. Clear enough? Terminology familiar enough? So I assume it at least registers sufficiently to be mulled over. Okay, let me say some things then briefly about Charles Sanders Peirce. if pragmatism means to you, if the term means to you relativism, a relativistic theory of truth, then Peirce is not a pragmatist. In fact, to disassociate himself from the other two I've listed, Peirce preferred to call himself a pragmaticist. A pragmaticist. The point being that Peirce did believe in the objectivity of truth, the objectivity of right and wrong. He was, in fact, a practicing scientist, worked with the United States Coastal Survey, and was simply sold on scientific method as the way of knowing. But it's Peirce's work, and he called it Peirce rather than Peirce. Peirce's work it is which laid the foundation for James and Dewey. And so the history of American pragmatism is always told beginning with Peirce. One of the interesting things from our standpoint is that his two most influential articles appeared in Popular Science Monthly, which isn't exactly the place you go for philosophical edification these days. But in 1877, he published an article called The Fixation of Belief, and in 1878, another one called How to Make Our Ideas Clear. Now, plainly, the first of these is dealing with the question of ensuring truth. The second is dealing with the question of meaning. How do we get at the meaning of something? How to make our ideas clear? And really, in both regards, the answer is the same. Look at the practical consequences. Look at the practical consequences. If you want to know whether a conception that you have, an idea that you have, a theory you have, if you want to know what it means, ask what it means in practice. What would it mean if it were put into operation? And in the fixation of belief, the same essentially with regards to ascertaining the truth of a matter. If you want a belief to be fixed with confidence, there are various ways that you might go about it. He rejects three of the ways and advocates the fourth. The first is the method of tenacity, which says, in effect, I'm not going to change my mind, whatever you say. Don't face me with the facts, I've got my mind made up. A method of tenacity. And his point, obviously, is that is no way of ascertaining the truth. It may be a way of